Drive a right-winger crazy. Help build a home of progressives by becoming a TYT member. Click the link in the description box below.
We've been sending Rebel HQ's Emma Vigeland around to a number of Trump rallies around the country. Other outlets do have embedded reporters as well. And The Guardian had one of their reporters going to a number of these rallies for week after week and really getting to know individual people that go to these rallies, but also what Trump's message is that he returns to from time to time. So we're gonna talk about that, but I also wanna talk about one individual that the Guardian reporter had an extended conversation with that might be willing to go farther in his adulation of Donald Trump than anyone I've seen before. So this is Steve Spaeth, who's 40 years old and runs a home exteriors company in West Bend. The Guardian reporter asked him who he regards as his political enemies and whether hate is too strong a word. Steve said, "Not at all. I have a deep and absolute disgust for these human beings." Guardian reporter asks which ones. He rattled off CNN, Soros, Clinton, Waters, Booker, Pocahontas, aka Elizabeth Warren, and others. Guardian reporter, why do you hate them? They want to turn America into a socialistic country. It's disgusting. First of all, I think that a number of those people, regardless of what you think about them, are not fans of socialism or even moving in that direction, but he has been trained to hate those people, the same people, by the way, that received bombs just a week ago.
How ironic.
But it goes farther than that.
So the Guardian reporter then asked Spaeth about his sister, who is a liberal and votes for Democrats. He said to her, if there's a civil war in this country and you were on the wrong side, I would have no problem shooting you in the face. Okay, so then the reporter says, you must be joking, right? And he says, no, I am not. I love my sister, we get on great. But she has to know how passionate I am about our president. So I'm gonna tell you a disturbing story of a guy I knew in college. He was a normal kid when he came in as a freshman. I was a junior, we were in the same hall, and he started pledging a frat, and he became more and more obsessed with the frat. And the frat does the same thing that cults do, and right, it doesn't mean if you're in a frat you're a bad guy. There's plenty of people who work here who are in frats, etc. But it is a similar ideology in a sense. But they don't get you to kill people most of the time. Anyway, but they do engender this, like they strip you of your identity. By the way, the military, all the militaries do this as well. They strip you of your individualism, and they say the reason you matter and what is most important is your new identity as a frat brother. The frat matters the most. So one day he came up to me and he said, you know, if my frat asked me to, I'd kill my mom. And I was like, wow. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you? And so the reason I tell you that story is, it is not particular to just the Trump cult. This is a common phenomenon. You strip people of their identity, you tell them they have a new identity, and they must follow the leader, and whatever the leader says, you must do. And it is more important than your family, friends, or anything else. And so, but what Trump has created with these MAGA guys is definitely a cult. They don't believe in reality. No matter how much Donald Trump says insane things that aren't remotely true, they say it is, and anyone who says the truth is fake news. And then now he's like, he loves his sister, and he would shoot her in the face if Trump told him to. It's actually worse than the original Trump comment. You remember Trump said, if I shot someone on Fifth Avenue, that he could get away with it with his followers? No, he could get them to shoot their own family members on Fifth Avenue and still get away with it.
He told his sister he would kill her. Like, this is not, and you're like, that is a see something, say something situation. He would have to go. Okay, like you have to leave the dorm, sir. Maybe the frat house has a room they can open up early for you.
And like, that's why when you hear stories sometimes of people doing outrageous things in frats, it's because of this phenomenon, and also religious cults, etc., and the MAGA cult. And so let's keep it real. The guy who sent all the bombs was in the MAGA cult, and he believed that, hey, I gotta act. The dear leader wants me to act, and the enemy is Soros, and the guys he tells me about in every rally. Trump said it in all the rallies before the bombs were sent, and he said it in all the rallies after the bombs were sent. In other words, congratulations, Caesar, nice job. These are the people I wanted you to attack. And they're not even your sister. How easy is that? Attack Soros. You all want to attack Soros. Emma Vigeland, our reporter for Rebel HQ, just did an interview with a guy who's got Soros tattooed on his back. And he's like the puppet master over Obama, Clinton, and Ayatollah Khomeini. And because
that's a weird connection.
Because they're mental. They're mental. And by the way, mainstream media, They're mental. Stop saying that they're rational or that it's 50-50 or that Republican voters are great and Hillary Clinton shouldn't have called them deplorable. Not all of them, but a significant percentage have lost their frickin' minds.
Well, and in terms of violence, I'm sure that just as with your friend in the frat, we're talking about a very small percentage. But there are thousands of people in the crowd, so you don't need 10% or exactly. We don't need 1%. You don't need 0.1% to occasionally have a terror attack. Far less than that, which he has, can become a gigantic problem. I mean, that guy, the Guardian reporter didn't say, if you had to shoot your sister, would you? And he thought about it and said yes. He offered it up as an example of his love, something that he had apparently already been thinking about.
He told it to her. That's the quote was that
exactly.
I told her. And what we just saw, the 2 terror attacks that we just saw, the 3 really that we just saw, like if this poor sister was a journalist, God forbid, like, and she's on top of that being called the enemy of the people.
Yeah.
Like, would we go back to that and be like, I mean, at what point do you realize, no, this is level 10, this is bad. It's not just, oh, he said something wild. Like, no, there's a fear that like he may actually do it. That I feel like his sister's in danger.
And it certainly doesn't. I mean, look, the people there are told lies constantly, and they don't know it. They can't tell, but it doesn't hurt that they go into these things with very little information. This was crazy to me. In the profile by the Guardian reporter, I thought that we had just moved past the QAnon thing. I thought that was this crazy thing that died off. Right. Maybe for the most part it has, but in the crowd at that rally was a woman named Shadow Lane who had a Q drawn on her cheek for QAnon, the far-right conspiracy theory network, and she believes some kind of crazy counterfactual things about the world. The reporter asked her what America would be like in 2050 if Hillary Clinton had beaten Trump, and she said it would be like Guatemala, a socialistic country. He, I think being generous, says she's probably confusing it with Venezuela since Guatemala is currently run by a right-wing president who, like that woman, is an avowed Trump fan, but it doesn't matter. It's all mixed up in their minds. They can't tell that's like if it's a right-winger, if it's a left-winger. Well, if it's a right-winger, it's probably fake news. Probably secretly it's a left-winger, probably secretly a Muslim too in Guatemala. But it's this mix of conspiracy theories and ignorance and hatreds and anxiety that give birth to a movement that will accept literally anything at this point.
They're not even complete sentences. The only complete sentence we've gotten out of this whole thing so far is that I would shoot my sister in the face. The rest of it's like it asked her to explain that cue. You know what I mean? Because I have solid like comprehension skills, and I don't get it.
There was one other comment, by the way. There was a comment from a 66-year-old retired teacher who said that the Democrats want the country to be poor, basically, because then they'll have power. And specifically, they want to keep black people in poverty. And he said, as proof of that, the Democrat Bush said, if you keep the blacks on welfare, they'll always vote for you. And the reporter said, Bush was a Republican, and he said, oh, I don't remember. That was not long ago. He was president for 8 years. He was a Republican.
So I'm gonna turn around now.
The guy's 66 and a teacher.
Also,
a teacher.
We know who benefits from welfare the most, but it's like that's a long. Okay,
yes,
we've been trying to get that
cross. It's white people.
For a really long
white
time,
people benefit from welfare way more than black people. I'd ask you to look into facts, but you don't believe in facts.
Right,
you're a Trump supporter, so it's irrelevant. Okay, so I'm going to turn around and tell you the things he's doing right in these rallies. Okay, and which is interesting. But one last thing about the lies. The lies are so prevalent, it's amazing. So he said they've opened up at least 8 new steel plants in the country. That's not true. There's been no new steel plants open. There have been 2 that have been expanded. So it's not really remotely true. And of course, he keeps saying that the immigrant caravan is being, which is in reality a refugee caravan, is being funded by the Democrats. It's a total lie, 100% lie. Ted Cruz today, 100% lie, says Beto O'Rourke is funding the caravan.
Why not?
Why not? Because we're making up stuff and our idiot followers will believe anything. I mean, how preposterous that Beto O'Rourke is funding the caravan. They're like, oh yeah, they'll believe it. They'll believe it. You can say that Beto O'Rourke killed the Easter Bunny, and they'll believe it. They'll believe there is an Easter Bunny and that Beto O'Rourke killed him. So anyway, what's the right thing he's doing here? Look, at these rallies, they say the 3 things, and the reporter I think did a fantastic job. He points out things that are true, right? He doesn't let him get away with things that aren't true, but points out, wait, you're missing something. And what you're missing is love. These are at the rallies. Love, peace, and humor. And you're thinking, really, about Donald Trump? But it's actually, in a lot of ways, it is true. And let me explain. So he keeps saying, I love you guys. And they keep shouting back, I love you. And I get it. And that is an effective tool, and they do love him. And it's what Brooke referred to in an earlier story on today's show. It's a cocoon, and within the cocoon, they're so safe. And they feel so good, and that's the peace part. They are so at peace. And the reporter, that's why I keep giving him credit, and Emma, who covers the rallies for us, has similar points. Within their cocoon, they're so happy and peaceful. There's no immigrant caravans going into a Trump rally. There are none of the minorities that they're worried about are a very small amount, and they believe the same thing, so they're okay, they're the good ones, etc., right? And Trump tells them all the things they want to hear.
Yeah.
Everyone outside the cocoon's a bad guy, but don't worry, I'm gonna protect you because I love you. And so they think like, oh my God, finally someone who gets it. And I'm gonna be safe with Daddy Donald, I'm gonna be safe. And that's why I love our leader, because he keeps us safe from all the boogeymen out there. And remember, the conservative brain is slightly different than the progressive brain. This is an actual scientific fact. Now, look, you don't wanna overinterpret it, but there are portions of their brain that are related to fear that are slightly larger than in other people's brains. So it is not an accident that conservatives all across the world and across history have been more reticent about change because they're afraid. They're afraid of change, they're afraid of the others. And so that is what Donald Trump takes advantage of. But for those people, it is such a soothing message. And then like you and I look at him and you think that he's not funny, but to them, he's a crack up.
You're right.
Because he's not telling jokes, but he goes like, Pocahontas. And we go, what a terrible thing to say about someone.
Racist,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so whether you think she's a Native American or you don't, or again, they don't care about facts, like let's say that, either way, it's racist to call someone Pocahontas. I mean, it's crazy, right? We look at it that way, like wouldn't that be offensive to Native Americans? Because we care about Native Americans, we don't want to offend them, right? But they look at it as like, yeah, that's so funny. I hate Native Americans too. Yes, that's so funny, right? And I'm so safe.
There's so much comfort in like expanding. Like it used to be, like we always say, like racism and all of this nasty. These people didn't just start feeling like this. Like you said something about like Bush supporters that they wanted to live in in like a normal world, like a normal aspect of like reality. Sure, but not far too many of them wanted to live here. But I think this has created this world where you can come outside. You can come outside your door. You don't have to just be nasty with your wife and your kids. Like you can say it outside, out loud. You can go on TV and say it. You can say it on a microphone. Your president says it. It's amazing.
And I think
it's like,
oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, I think I 100% agree. I think tied in with it is you get to vacillate between these periods of what you're saying is this warmth and comfort. Everyone around me is like me. I don't have to worry right now. But also, and this is just a human thing, it explains why mob violence exists. There's a certain percentage of people, and I think that they have self-selected into the Trump cult, that just want to release this darkness inside of them. And they want a person to give them that right. So they bow down to the authoritarian leader, Donald Trump, but the authoritarian leader then in turn allows them to lash out. So when he says those media people and everybody lets loose with their rage targeted against the media that's assembled there, when he says exclusively generally about black politicians and especially black female politicians that they're low IQ or they're criminals or whatever, lock them up because these people desperately want to see people like that locked up and they want a powerful figure to tell them all of those feelings you have are perfectly acceptable. You're surrounded by everyone who will agree with you. Now just let it out right now. Do this 2-minute hate and you will feel so much better afterward.
It's almost therapy. And finally, the reporter said the most common sentence spoken there, and it's actually on the t-shirts as well. And by the way, his name is Ed Pilkington. I want to give him credit for a wonderful story. The sentence was, Trump, he says what I think. And that's it. That's it right there. So when the CNNs of the world actually cover for Trump supporters, I know they never believe that, but they do. They cover up for them and they pretend that Trump is the only guy who thinks these things and Trump is a wacko who by himself, but he doesn't represent the Republican Party or their voters. It's not remotely true. They had 17 people to choose from. They chose Donald Trump. They did it on purpose because he says what they think. And what they think is, man, remember when America was great, when we dominated and we didn't have to worry about anybody else? We didn't have to worry about equal rights. We didn't have to worry about any of that. I mean, in the 1950s and 60s, America wasn't great for a lot of people and they hate to hear that. They're like, but it was great for us.
Fake news.
We ruled.
Yeah.
We ruled. So now when he attacks all those other people, you think that that's the problem. They think it's the solution. He says what I think. That's what the t-shirts say. And so that's the Trump cult, and that's why they love him, because he's finally someone just as racist as they are. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.